Let's talk about creating and organizing groups in a Noteflight Learn site. So in Noteflight Learn, when you're using an LTI integration or a standalone integration, standalone site, you have groups. Now for Google Classroom, just as a note, if you're in a Google Classroom site, which I'll go back here, Google Classroom automatically creates groups that mirror your classes. So for Google Classroom users, you don't have to worry about creating groups. Noteflight's going to do that for you, mirroring all your classes. If you're a standalone or LTI user, you have the opportunity to create your own groups. A group can be a collection of users. It could be students or teachers. A group could be a collection of scores or both. It usually ends up being both. So notice I have some groups here that are based on ensembles. I have some that are based on classes, and some I just have that are like, piano class or theory or whatever it is. So I'll go into an existing group. When you go to create a group, you have a name of your group, you can upload an image, and you have different options. So you can assign which students you want in the group, or you can let students have open access and join by themselves. You can also say that anyone that can see the group can see all the content, or you can say the only content is members only. So you have some access settings. I'm going to leave these settings alone because most people like to put their students in groups. So then you can go to members and you can select which students you want to add. So when you add students, you can just select and these students now have access to the choir group. Well, what does that mean? Well, I have some scores shared with choir. So all of these scores that were already in the choir group, those students I just added automatically now have access. So you have two options here. You could create a group that just has no students, but you can share a bunch of scores with it, and then you can add students and they automatically have a bunch of scores that they need to use. The example here would be like a music theory group where you have set up like a whole bunch of music theory assignments, and you could just add students and say, okay, you're now added, complete all these this semester, right? And you can even do something like music theory 1, music theory 2, and move your students through groups. They become like learning modules, but you can also group your students as like sections. Also note that students in a group can share scores with each other in the group. So like you create like a clarinet group and you could share scores about all kinds of stuff like being afraid of B natural and never passing B flat, right? Or squeaking on low tones and squeaking on high tones. In fact, just squeaking all the time because that's what clarinets do, right? You could create a group just for squeaking, however you want to do that. And you could do that with both an LTI site and a Google site, and a standalone site. You have unlimited groups. And again, just like everything else, I just want to point out that all of this is organized in the support center. So if you are looking for how to do this, there's creating and managing groups for a standalone site. And if you use an LTI, we have creating and managing groups with LTI. And this information is right here, step-by-step instructions for you to process. So that is creating and managing groups with the standalone site.